Today on Locked On Canadiens, Rumour Roundup is back. Nazem Kadri is linked to the Canadiens for some reason. We draft our favorite Marty Isms and introduce you to our new favorite fantasy sport.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1352 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast doing. That supports us here on the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan. You may have known my work from rabbithabs.com back in the day, as well as the Build podcast, which is on a long hiatus. I think this is just the Build podcast spinoff. I think that's what this has amounted to. And I'm joined, as I always am, by the wonderful Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick. You may have known her work from Habs Eyes on the Prize and from Hockey Primetime back in the day. Laura, we have a very fun thing to do today, and It's not Rumour Roundup. As fun as that is second place on the fun things to do today, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Like, it is the off season. We've been wanting to do this for a very long time, so we're going to go a little bit silly, but we hope you enjoy the game along with us. You guys are going to get to participate too at the end, so please stick around.
Yes, please do. Look, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's something that we've thought about doing for a while and figured now that we've gone down to these three shows a week, we have a little bit more time to plan and think about these things and execute these ideas. And I think this will go very well. So hang in there. That's going to be in our second and third segment. It's quite a big one, so stick in there. But we have to start with Rumour Roundup. And it's like I said, it seems very odd that I'm using Rumour Roundup as like the meat before the dessert, right? Like, this is dinner. These are the vegetables, which is hilarious because that's not the way that this should be. This is supposed to be the fun bit. But here we go, putting the hat on. It's time for Rumour Roundup. Today's rumor is courtesy of Nick Kyprios, writing for Sportsnet. He says that the Flames are building up on their young team, and while Kadri could still be a possibility or possibly be a contributing piece when some of their youth blossoms, a trade now could also bring Calgary a package that would help them more in the long term. And that return would improve if the Flames also retain salary. Currently, there are only retaining salary on Jacob Markstrom for one more season. Two teams that continue to be linked and appear to be willing to lift his no-move clause for are the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto's Brad Treliving has tried numerous times to trade with his old club in the past, only to be shut down by the Flames on Tanev, Zadorov, and Anderson. So it may be a stretch for the Leafs to land Kadri. What are your thoughts? I mean, we talked about Kadri in 2C or not 2C. We're both big fans of this player. Like, we we were on this a while ago that this would actually be a decent fit, right?
Yes, absolutely. And here's the thing. Kadri is aging. So people keep pointing out, right? Like, the Montreal Canadiens need a number 2C, but so do so many other teams in the league, right? And there's a huge competition for that. But if Nick Kyprios is saying that there's two teams that Nazem Kadri is willing to waive for, and Montreal is one of them, that narrows down the field considerably. Now, if the Flames maybe don't want to deal with their former general manager, that also narrows it down to the Montreal Canadiens. And the other thing too is that, yes, he's aging, but the Montreal Canadiens do have someone they hope is going to be a second line center a couple of years from now. So Nazem Kadri makes the perfect stopgap solution. Like, this is a very special player who has a lot of what the Canadiens are looking for. And again, we can't look at that age because we know that whoever they get at 2C right now might not be the 2C when the Montreal Canadiens are year after year trying to make the Stanley Cup final. So I feel like this is definitely something that pushes them in the right direction. It also helps the development of the people around him, right? Like Nazem Kadri. He adds a little bit of grit if the Canadiens do end up making the playoffs. And, we talk about that's something they're lacking. He's got that experience. He's got a lot of that spark that the Canadiens need. And again, this is a big if, right? We don't know if the Montreal Canadiens have inquired about him. We just know Nick Kyprios is saying they're linked. And we don't know if they're linked because maybe Kadri's agent told Nick Kyprios, he might wait for Montreal. So we're not really sure exactly. We do know that Nick Kyprios is connected And not everything he says pans out, but a lot of times where there's smoke, there's fire with him. So I personally feel like this is a possibility. And if it is a possibility, then I would be really excited. And again, with that caveat that they really need to work really hard on developing their second line center in Michael Hage, if that's it. Now, the other question too is that if they are giving him up, is that the player Calgary asks for?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting aspect of this. I think the Canadiens have to decide how in they are on getting that 2C, right? I think, if it was a younger player and, a higher end player than Nazem Kadri, who's already an excellent player, then making Michael Hage the centerpiece of that would make some sense. It does not make sense in a Kadri trade. If the Flames say we want, Kadri wants to go to Montreal, we want Hage, you say he can buy a plane ticket to Montreal and come visit. Like, that's not something that the Canadiens should entertain. Kadri does solve a lot of problems for the Canadiens. He's a veteran center. He's currently the top center, and he was the top scorer for the Flames last year. He's a left shot center. He's not great at faceoffs, but he is a marked improvement on, the Alex Newhooks, although Newhook was kind of getting it towards the end of the season, and of Kirby Dach, who just has never really done well in that field. I'd have to look into it if he's a penalty killer. I wouldn't feel, terribly. I don't think he would feel out of place on the penalty kill if they needed him to play there. I love that you pointed out the word that Kyprios used, which was linked, because I think this is. I hope people realize that when we do this segment, when we do Rumour Roundup, by virtue of us bringing up a rumor, we are not saying that it is 100% true. We're hardly even saying that it's a true rumor. We're just analyzing it from does this make sense? How fun is this? Like, when I hear things like linked, I don't know what to do with that. Like, I don't know. Like, it was like years ago when, they were leaking pics of the NBA draft ahead of time, and the NBA told the reporters stop doing that. So they started to use like thesaurus words to figure out how they can say like the Celtics are eyeballing this player, and then they would walk up there and pick that player. Like, it very much feels like that kind of circumlinguistics.
Yeah.
They're around the thing that they're not supposed to be saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of this.
It could also be like, this is the thing. This is a conspiracy theory that I have that I will never be able to prove and might be completely out there. But sometimes I feel like media members think that a player would be really good on a team. So then they all just start talking about it as if something is actually going on until like the prophecy comes true. So like maybe Nick Kyprios thinks it's a good idea for Nazem Kadri to be in Montreal, in which case I would agree with him. And he's like, okay, how do I get Kent Hughes' attention and get him to call Calgary? And this is what he does, right? So I have this conspiracy theory about some media members that are really, really dialed in, right? They might be doing that. Like, I strongly feel this way about Pierre LeBrun, is sometimes I think he drops things out there in order to give GMs ideas. But again, it's a conspiracy theory. I will never be able to prove it, and it could be way out there. But I think it's just really funny when there's linked, because it's like, maybe it's like linked in my head because I think it'll be a good idea.
Yeah, they're linked because I just put them in the same sentence. You know what I mean? Like, it could be that. It sometimes feels that flippant. I know when this rumor came out on Tuesday, I know a lot of Habs fans were like, Kyprios said it is probably not true. Like, that was immediately the reaction. Kyprios, I don't know so much as an insider. All I remember, I mean, he broke the big one, which was the Subban for Weber deal. He was the first one on that. Outside of that, like, I haven't seen him break too much for Montreal, so the sources there are still in question. But to your point, it's easy for people in the sport to draw that line between the Canadiens and this center who we don't even know is available. Like, we don't even know that the Flames are like, we're trying to get rid of this guy. I think the cap hit is interesting, $7 million for the next 4 years. But as I've been a big proponent of on this show, towards the end of that, 7 million will be closer to like what 5 million feels like now. So it's, yes, still very much for a 37-year-old player, but not as hampering as what a $7 million 37-year-old player would be today. So let's do our yeehaws. Realism, I think we nailed that one, right? It feels like it could happen, but also, what does linked mean? What are we doing with that?
Yes. Yeah. Realism is like a giant question mark for me.
Yeah. And entertainment. Look, Nazem Kadri in a Canadiens uniform would rule because he was a Canadiens fan growing up. He's been very open about that, and it would make the Leafs very mad.
Yes.
It would make they would be so mad that they had to play this guy 4 times a year. I think Kadri would revel in the chance to play them as often as he would in Montreal. So like that, the entertainment aspect of Kadri in Montreal, a billion yeehaws out of 5.
I was gonna say 22 yeehaws out of 5, but yours is way better.
Yeah, a billion. I mean, let's go big or go home, right? That's what I mean. It's not big hat time for Nazem Kadri. I don't know that it ever will be. I don't know that he's a big hat player at this point in his career, but maybe we'll see how the rest of the trade market develops. Yes. All right.
And before we end, I just want to say that the Montreal Canadiens and Sidney Crosby have been linked. That's what I want to say.
Honestly, like when you were mentioning that, I was like, we've been linking Sidney Crosby to Montreal since like the Four Nations. Like, yeah, like so I kind of like if that rumor is true or if that theory is true, we will see that come to fruition, which would be very funny. All right, we've teased our next segment long enough. When we come back, we are drafting our favorite Marty-isms and creating a fantasy sport of sorts, and we'll get into all of that in just a minute on Locked On Canadiens. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder what your seat will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. And with Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. There are no hidden fees. Take out the guesswork of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, we are back, and we have to set the stage for what this is. So every Canadiens fan knows that Marty St. has a vocabulary that has not been replicated before in that office of head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. I don't recall a coach who has such a way with words as Marty St. to the point where he has Marty-isms. We all know what this means. We as a fan base have created a word, and we all know what it means. Marty-isms, right? The thing about he said about Slav with ways, the thing about puppies peeing on the floor and do you get mad at them? Those are Marty-isms. And we've long had the idea to do a draft of picking our favorite Marty-isms, but what it evolved into was we want to make a game out of this. So we have. So we're calling this the Fantasy Marty League. It is just me and Laura. We're the only people in this league. It's just us. Maybe one day we'll expand it. We need a few more seasons of Marty-isms, I think, to branch this out. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to pick rosters of 6 Marty-isms. Then from as soon as this episode goes live until the end of the season, until they do after their postseason press conferences, we will be tallying points based on how this goes. So you get 1 point if we can work our own quote into something that is happening with the Canadiens. So if I pick the Ways quote and I work it into a topic on the show and it's natural and I didn't shoehorn it and Laura says, fair play, that's a point for you, then I get a point. If I take Ways and Laura mentions the Ways thing and I said, that's mine, I get 2 points for that. So 1 point for mentioning your own, 2 points for your opponent mentioning yours, and 3 points for anyone who collects a paycheck from Jeff Molson saying one of these Marty-isms or something in the flavor of that Marty-ism, right? They're not all going to be bang on, but we will use our better judgment here to make a judgment call there. So 3 points if it's a player who mentions it post-game, if it's Marty himself, if it's the front office. You get 3 points if one of them says your quote. Now, we've flipped a coin. We are going to do a back and forth draft here. I won the coin toss. I will be picking first. However, Laura still gets an advantage out of this because there's going to be more Marty-isms. And now Laura, by virtue of her losing the coin toss, will have first waiver priority. So every time there is a new Marty-ism, she can drop one of her existing ones and pick up a new one. So, going into the golf tournament, for example, when we know the Marty-isms are going to be on point, she's going to have first pick of the litter there. So we'll keep this going. If there are any disagreements between Laura and I on this, we have enlisted the help of Scott Matla, who will act as our arbitrator for any other disputes. Yeah. Laura, do you understand the rules as I have laid them out? Do you have any questions? Are you excited?
I understand. I don't have any questions. I'm very excited, but we should mention to the listeners that we are going to put this up. So we're going to make a banner of our Marty-isms, so you'll know which one of us has which Marty-ism. And then you guys can join in and be part of this league by picking one of us. So if you pick me, you have to stick with me for the rest of the season. You pick Ian, you have to stick with him for the rest of the season. And we're going to put this graphic up on our socials. It'll be on our YouTube page. It'll be on all of our socials. You can email us to a link to it, and we will send you the link to the banner, just so that you know which one you're picking. And then all you have to do is lock it in with an email or a comment or something. So you guys will be going along with the ride with us. It's like picking your own fantasy team. It's just we've done the picks.
Yeah, you're picking a team to root for. You're picking Marty-isms to root for. So, Laura, as a sign of good faith as a competitor, I want to wish you good luck this season, and I hope you get some picks in the draft that you enjoy.
Good luck.
And with that said, I am happy to announce that Team Ian, with the first overall pick, is selecting "Threw Up All Over Ourselves." And I'll read the quote in full. See if I can zoom back out. Our start showed we were patient and disciplined. We're in a good spot going into the third, and you just throw up all over yourself. I picked this one because every hockey team is going to do this, and whether I can work this in, I feel like there's a pretty high likelihood Marty throws this one out again, and I feel like there's still a chance you might throw it out there, even though I mentioned it.
So I absolutely will.
I'm going up with "Threw Up All Over Ourselves."
So you got the Connor McDavid of the draft. No, I think you did good. You got the Connor McDavid of the draft. That was the highest value one. That was the top of my list. But I definitely commend you on that pick. I want to know, is it a size thing? Is it a skating thing? Is it a skills thing?
It's a versatility thing. I feel like there's a lot of uses for a lot of people are going to be using this one. Yeah. I feel like I just have the most shots on goal with this guy.
Yeah, you've got Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, your first pick. Where are you going with this one?
My first pick is a feelings one. I think I'm going a little bit Anaheim Ducks on this one, but you guys can let me know. I want the pain and the joy quote. So I get the pain and the joy. And this was at the end of the season when the Montreal Canadiens were eliminated by the Washington Capitals after the postgame. He said this in both French and English, and he said that the pain that you're feeling right now is nothing compared to the joy that's coming. And that gave me goosebumps. It made me tear up. Obviously, we were sad we were losing this team that we really enjoyed for the summer. And so it's very much a feelings pick, but time will tell if I got a seal. Right?
Yeah, I do think this is a risky pick, but I think that with what I picked in mine, that is taking into account that there is going to be some bad moments this year. Yeah. And at the same time, that might be a way that we're looking at this optimistically, right? That there is still hope for this. This is just a speed bump. So I think it's a good pick. I do think that that's a great one. I think just honestly, if we're just picking our favorites, that's my favorite one. I think because it sets up all of our emotions for where we're headed.
Yes.
All right. I'll do my next pick quickly here. I think I'm going to go with, let me see if I can find it in our banners here. I don't think, oh yes, here we are. I'm going to go with "Put your game in the game." Can you say this in French for me, Laura, so that we have this on record?
Faut que t'amènes ton game dans la game.
Excellent.
Yes. So,
and I think that's just that's like his Bill Belichick version of "do your job."
Yeah.
Right. Like you have your game. It's your job to put it into the game, as in the game that's being played on the ice. I think that we're going to get a lot of mileage out of that one. I'm surprised we haven't yet, considering, how we look at Uri Slafkovsky. That sort of thing is what we'd be looking at there. So I'm going with "Put your game in the game," and throwing it back to you for your second pick, Laura.
My second pick is going to be the one about the critics. I think this one is one that is going to come up in an up and down season. I think the Canadiens are going to have a couple more roller coaster seasons. And so this is the one I'm picking. Although now it is escaping me the exact quote that he said, but I think it's, I wouldn't take criticism from somebody I wouldn't take advice from, right?
Yeah, that's the gist of it. Yeah,
That's the gist
and I
of
think
it.
that's great. I think that first of all speaks to who Marty is as a guy.
Yeah.
He's very authentic with the media, which means he's only going to be authentic with his players. This would have been my next pick, honestly. So you stole one from me there. So we'll leave the draft here for now. We're going to come back and give you guys our last 4 picks. We do have to step aside for a final break, and when we come back, you will see how the rest of our teams shaped up on Locked On Canadiens. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, so you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. For me, when I started using Monarch Money, it was obvious. It was takeouts and subscriptions that I wasn't aware of, that I was still paying for, that added up, and it was way more than I would have expected. Monarch allowed me to locate those and get rid of the ones I didn't want and just kind of monitor my spending a little bit better than I had been. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, we are back, and I am on the clock for my 3rd pick in the Marty-ism draft. I think I am going to go with the ceiling and the floor, and I'll read the quote for you here. Essentially, it's when I look at a player, I'm looking at ceiling. I'm not worried about their floor. We can fix the floor. So I'm a big believer, especially with young guys. I look at their ceiling. I don't care about the floor. I really don't when they're young. Show me your ceiling. We'll fix the floor. I think we talk about ceiling and floor with players a lot, especially around draft season. But, Jaden Struble became a victim of that last year, where Marty said he needed to raise his floor, that his floor wasn't up to snuff. And I think that's going to be something that comes into play a lot this year for the Canadiens. So give me ceiling and floor for my third round pick.
I think that's a good pick. I think you're doing really well in this draft. I'm starting to get nervous that nobody's going to take my side.
This is the thing, though, like on draft day for anything, like the team who wins the draft night of rarely wins the draft 10 years from now. Like, so we'll see how this plays out in my favor, but I am going with the analytical approach to this. I'm trying to maximize value with every pick possible.
Got it. I went with emotion on the first one. I think my second one wasn't bad. I think. All right. My next one is going to be the chair analogy. Do you want to do the quote real quick?
Yeah, let me grab that quickly.
Yeah.
The chair analogy was, you always have to be trying to get in the best chair you can have, but you also have to be realistic about who's sitting in which chair ahead of you. So it's about getting a chair and playing the role that chair calls for, but always trying to get a better chair while also understanding the role the coach needs you to play. But you can't be afraid of going out and stealing a chair, even if you're an AHL guy. That is it makes perfect sense, but it's also all over the place, isn't it?
Marty does that a lot.
Yeah.
And so essentially, yes, the reason that I picked this chair is because of where the Montreal Canadiens are at in their rebuild and because of where their prospects are at. There are actually chairs available right now on the NHL club. There's unfilled roster spots, but when the time comes to fill them, there are a lot of them that will have a logjam, and so there's going to be a lot of kids. They're trying to fight their way in. Some of them are grown men at this point. They're going to be trying to fight their way into this NHL lineup. So to me, that is very much the chair analogy. Like that's, I forgot to show it on the YouTube.
So much just says chair.
I know. I love how it's a chair, because how was I going to put all of that into a banner that fits on the YouTube, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, so like I feel like this is a value pick in that the ceiling might not be astronomical, but the floor is pretty high.
Yeah, I think so too, because there's going to be a lot of guys fighting for spots, especially early. This might be one that early on in the season you get a lot of value out of, and then it kind of falls off, and maybe you waive it and you pick up something that Marty says later on. Like I feel like that's you're playing the schedule here, which I think is really good. Like that's a powerful decision that you made there.
Hopefully
All
it
right.
works out in my favor.
Hopefully, I'm hoping that this is competitive. I hope that we get sort of a back and forth here, and it's not just either nobody scores or one of us runs away with it. It's way more fun if we're both in this. By the way, we didn't mention waiver priority. After each month, it will reset. So the lowest at the beginning of the month, the person who is in second place will have the highest waiver priority. Yeah. So we'll leave that there.
Yeah, but I get golf tournament until the end of October.
Yeah, which is just, I mean, that's going to be a gold mine. Like they're in front of the microphone so much. Like it's gonna, I was kind of mad that I got to pick first, but it is what it is. I made the rules. I'm the first commissioner of the Marty League.
How many picks do we have left now?
So that was pick 3. So we each have 3 left. So we gotta do what the NHL ought to do and move through the later rounds of this draft a little bit quicker.
Yeah, but also we'll like present the jack guys of the later, the ones that didn't get picked. We'll just tell you guys what they are. We don't have to discuss them or anything. All right, it's your next pick.
Yeah, and I think this pick slid in the draft due to size. It's the mix. I can't believe the mix is still here. I think there's a chance that the mix kind of falls apart from the team saying it, because I think they've moved beyond that. However, the mix is so much part of our lexicon, like as fans. I don't think this is going anywhere from a fan's perspective. On like they're gonna win if they win the cup, we're still gonna be talking about the mix. That's how much staying power this line has to me. So with my 4th pick, I will be taking the mix.
I am torn a little bit, actually. I'm gonna go with the puppy peeing on the floor. And
good one.
Okay, do you want to give the quote real quick?
Yeah, so I couldn't find this quote, and it made me feel like the internet was gaslighting me into thinking this never happened, but you remembered it as well, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. They'll probably be able to find it better than I could. But it was essentially, he was talking about when young players make a mistake, he equated it to a puppy peeing on the floor. And it's like, you can be mad at the puppy, but the puppy doesn't know any better. It's, it's just trying to do its best. You can't be mad at the puppy. That was sort of the gist there. But again, if you can find the quote, let us know. I looked for it and couldn't find the direct line.
This is, again, me talking about the youth of this team. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for puppies to pee on the floor, and Marty can't be mad.
Correct. I agree with that. All right. I have the next pick. This is my 5th pick, and I'm going with another simple one here. Josh is back. I think this has a chance to be a sleeper for me. I think that if Josh has a tough start to the season and then he ends up coming back, I don't know so much that Marty will mention it. Maybe some of the players will mention it in their post-game or pre-game, comments, but we're definitely going to mention it. So Josh is back with my 5th overall pick.
Awesome. And then my next pick is going to be find their own answers.
Interesting. And I have that one here. If you just give me a moment. You don't have to give the players the answers all the time. Sometimes they almost get better if they find their own answers. What do you like about that one?
I like that because we're heading into a season where the Montreal Canadiens outperformed their expectations last year. There's going to be stumbles, and we are going to have slumps this upcoming season. There's no 2 ways around it. I'm not trying to be negative in any way. I'm just saying, like, there's going to be a lot of stuff they have to figure out. There's going to be some roster changes, right? Big roster changes, and there's going to be some time that they're going to need to figure things out. So I do think that they're still young and they're still immature. So this quote still has a lot of potential for this upcoming season. Like, this is definitely me playing the schedule, I'm going to say instant gratification or something like that, like more instant results. That this is definitely a quote that I feel could be put on waivers later on in the season.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. So that's a strong pick there. All right, we are approaching the end of the draft. This is my last pick, and I am going with, let me see if I can find it. Yes, this one here. I'm going to take care of your house. And I'll read the quote here. I tell them all the time, they're going to live in the house they are building. So you're better off taking care of your house. That's youth. I don't want them 4 or 5 years from now being angry about the house they built. It's their house. This season can go a lot of different ways. Like, they could be very happy with the house they built, and they're talking about the culture that they built in that room. Or, things could go sideways, and they have to talk about how, the house that they built is able to withstand, the series of negative things that's happening to the team. So I'm going with take care of your house. Also, just good advice for everyone. A lot of these things from Marty can just be applied to real life, like to anything outside of hockey. So that's what's helpful there as well.
Absolutely. So I feel like my draft kind of has a theme because I think the next one, I think actually, I'm going to go with giving up on yourself.
All right. I have the quote on that one as well. If you give me one moment, let's find it here. And here it is. If you give up on yourself, then that's the day I'll consider taking you out of the lineup and start to give up on you. A player who doesn't give up on himself, you see it in his attitude, his work ethic, his level of engagement. That was from a few years ago on Josh Anderson. So that's sort of the vibe that you're getting with that one. Why did you make that one your last pick?
Because I think a lot of players had a really great season last year. In looking at our season reviews, right? There were very few players that we didn't have positive things to say about. So I do think that there might be a little bit of regression coming up this upcoming season. Not permanent, but there's going to be moments of questioning and doubt. So I do think that things along those lines are going to be said, particularly within his press conferences or post games. I think post games is where I'm expecting this to come up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we did it. Those are our picks for this year's the inaugural Marty Fantasy League. So thank you for listening. Let us know how we did. Let us know what team you're riding with. Are you riding with me and the mix and threw up on themselves? Are you riding with Laura on the pain and the joy and chairs and puppies and their own answers? I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. And keep us honest. If we miss things, if you think that we've shoehorned something in, let us know in the comments. We will try to be amenable to that. We'll try to play to the audience here. But
were there any picks? I think we had a couple that didn't get picked at all.
Yeah, these ones are undrafted. We had baby versus child, which was essentially, a baby you have to take care of. A child is a little more autonomous. They can brush their own teeth or do whatever they need to. So that's he's talking about the development there. Let's see what Saturday at the Bell Center, where he was asked he was asked about Saturdays at the Bell Center, and he said, if I had one more day left on earth and he told me I could do one thing, I'd like it to be Saturday night at the Bell Center, which bars, it's incredible. I just don't know how much value there is to picking it in something like this, but man, I want to run through that wall for that guy.
It was a strategic pick, right? A strategic omission.
Correct. And I think the last one that we did not mention was Waze, which I actually used in the example, which was about Juraj Slafkovsky. They don't know how long it's going to take Juraj Slafkovsky to get to where he's headed, but we know he's headed there. We know the destination is great, but we don't have a time of destination yet. Yeah. So yeah, that's our Marty draft. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you play along with us. Let us know who you're riding with. And with that, Laura, I think it's time to get into our trivia from yesterday.
Yes.
All right. Yesterday's question. We were talking about our I hated that guy team, which, by the way, we got some feedback from folks of guys we missed, like Scott Gomez, Alex Semin, Thomas Caberlet, and Patrice Brisebois, who I know we talked before. You left Brisebois out of pity. Yeah,
I left him off out of pity. We were so hard on that guy. We made him cry.
Yeah, was not fair at all to him. I'm glad he seems to be adjusting well. Host Montreal Canadiens. So with that, I had two players on my I hated watching them team that played on the exact same college roster. Laura, do you know who they were?
If I remember correctly, they were Rennie Bourque and Tom Gilbert.
Correct. They both played for Wisconsin in the NCAA. I don't believe anybody had that answer, although if I got that part wrong, you guys can yell at me in the comments. All right, today we talked about the Calgary Flames in Nazem Kadri, and we talked about Marty St. Louis, who are connected. Marty played for the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames exposed Marty St. Louis in the 2000 expansion draft that saw Columbus and Minnesota pick their first rosters. St. Louis was not picked, and then he was later bought out in Calgary and became a free agent, where he went on to join the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the rest is history. The Wild picked two players from the Flames in that expansion draft. Who were they? Who are the two players that the Wild said, we're going to pass on this Marty St. Louis guy, he's too small, and we're going to take these two players instead? And if you have the answer, put it in the comments down below. Send it to us any way you know how, and we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show. And with that, we will leave you. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Locked On Canadiens. Please feel free to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you don't miss an episode. For your second listen, go check out Locked On NHL. There's no offseason bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most, the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also follow us on Bluesky, where we will be posting our updates to the Marty-ism Draft. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram as well for shorts and other graphics. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. We have a mailbag on Friday. Send in your questions, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com, and we'll cover them on the show. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys on Friday.